Hello, today for review I've got recently announced in-ear monitors by Shozy, models that they named Rouge, and they choose French words probably to highlight the design. I will show it later, so it's really impressive. And in terms of internals, it's a typical hybrid in-ear monitors. It's some custom dynamic driver and double balanced armatures by Knowles, so it's kind of classical setup for modern in-ear monitors. Price is also on the reasonable side. They are sold for $180. I will add links to the shop in the description. Of course, it's a bit higher than some less known Chinese companies, but Shozy always try to deliver more in terms of sound. You know, I'm a fan of Shozy as a brand, Shozy/Kozoi. It's a company that really spent some time in tuning the sound. Every model they release, they may be not for everyone, but usually all their models are at least interesting. They have interesting ideas and concepts in sound that they implement. Recently they released two pretty popular hybrid in-ear monitors, Form 1.1 and Form 1.4, so single dynamic driver and single balanced armature, and single dynamic driver for balanced armatures. I did reviews for that models, but as you can see, Rouge is priced close to 1.4 but has two drivers less, but in exchange they gave a better design. But of course the most interesting part is the sound, so let's have a closer look. As you can see, box is really minimalistic, really simple, no attempts to impress you with the package. I think it's actually a good idea because nature's resources are limited, so why spend them on something not so useful? Inside of the plain cardboard box you will have nice storage case, really good Fox leather with nice texture, and inside a package with earphones and two additional pair of tips. So accessory set is super minimalistic. For this price range, of course, it could be a bit wider. It should be, definitely. In terms of designs, they are pretty great. Each earpiece is handmade and hand-painted. So each earpiece has unique swirl pattern, and I really like that. You know, in our days of mass market and mass production, getting something just a bit unique, it's always a pleasure that worth spending a few additional dollars. Well, at least for me, it's my subjective opinion. In terms of design, you can see here used some pink color with unusual swirls. Probably in ex-Soviet countries these earphones won't be considered man enough and would be considered as a ladies' earphones, but I'm not sure about the outside of the world for the non-countries of these people not traumatized by Soviet Union. Anyway, design is nice, good, unusual color, and nice implementation. Typical ergonomic shape with average sized spout with proper angle. Sound isolation is also average. There is a small pressure relief hole, and you can see there are two bores in each spout, so dynamic driver and balanced armatures are separated. There is a slight lip for holding the tips, but I'd probably prefer it to be bigger. So in terms of build, they are nice, absolutely seamless, and looks really attractive. So definitely the case when you pay additional price for the design. Cable is made replaceable. Here used regular 2-pin connector, no recessed socket, no recessed pins, so just absolutely standard traditional 2-pin socket. Stock cable is normal, Maybe it's not some masterpiece of audiophile cable making. It's medium in terms of softness, there is a slight microphonic noise, but thanks to these ear hooks with proper selected tips, microphonic noise won't bother you much. Anyway, cable looks reliable, it's almost not getting hard when it's cold. Here is the splitter with chin slider, and below it goes down to the regular jack. So jack and splitter are done in similar style. That looks pretty good. So as you can see, in terms of design, they are really good. Maybe not for design, not for everyone, but still pretty attractive. Accessory set and package are minimalistic, but probably it's a design idea. But of course, the most interesting aspect of every in-ear monitors is the sound. I gave Rouge about 48 hours of burn-in, but there were no noticeable changes in sound, maybe just during first hour or two, so and don't bother with burning in, they will do it almost instantly. Of course, proper tip selection is required, otherwise you will get the bassless, bodiless tuning. In general, in terms of tuning, it's a pretty typical V-shaped signature, but done in a bit unusual way, with a more elevated treble area, giving clean and crisp sound in many aspects. So let's have some player on the table and let's proceed with step-by-step description. Probably some comparisons with Form 1.1 and 1.4 are unavoidable, so I will mention them from time to time. So bass here is accented, but accent is a bit less than in Form 1.1, and it's not focused on the mid bass but also on the deeper bass. So low frequencies are almost linear here, and it gives a noticeable result. So bass here is a bit more natural, and it gives a bit more sense of better technical representation, a bit better texturing, it's a bit tighter and a bit more impactful than in Form. So they are a bit less warm, but still bass is nice, it's present, well defined, but accent here is not big. So it's not a model for bass heads, it's not the model for those who like overwhelming, emphasized low frequencies. These are tuned more for the acoustic instruments, for something like low octaves of fortepiano or some acoustic double bass. And but electronic music sounds also pretty nice, because these hybrids have a good body. It's just not accented and forward, or to be more precise, accent is present, but it's not big. And as an example, I could use my favorite music Anuda, for example, but I decided to use Kent Poon audiophile jazz prologue and track named Freddie. It has nice acoustic double bass part here, but it's not emphasized, and it's just playing on the same level with all instruments. And of course, main instrument here is fortepiano, so you can lose acoustic with this double bass sometimes when the low frequencies of earphones are not done right. But lows here are pretty good, so it's nice and well presented bass. Mids can be probably divided into two parts. So central mids are a bit recessed, actually not bit, it's just average recessed, not the biggest V-shape that I've seen, but also not the smallest. So lower part of mids are a bit recessed, and that means a weighty representation, sometimes lacking a bit of focus on the micro contrast, but still normal in terms of resolution. And on the upper mids, balanced armature drivers took their place, and upper mids are elevated and sounding clean, crisp, so female vocal and high male vocals are nice and well defined. And distorted guitars are good, but lower part of mid sometimes causing lack of aggression. So probably it's just not the model created for the aggressive music. But of course it's a matter of preference. I listen some metal tracks with these earphones too. Imaginary stage is noticeably above average, and you know, for me it's all typical. So when upper mid and treble is elevated and clean and clear, it gives me nice and noticeable, nice and big and pretty spacious stage. And as an example here I will use Going to California by Led Zeppelin. You heard this track, you know why I selected this track. Nice guitar and plant vocals, sounding energetic and clean and crisp thanks to the elevated upper mids here. And treble, it's probably one of the strongest part of sound of these earphones, bass and treble, so typical for V-shape probably, so getting a good bass and treble, but treble here is elevated. It's not too accented, but if you treble sensitive, keep that in mind. It's not the earphones that try to do like warm or polite sound, so treble is presented. It has noticeable accent, not the huge, but probably a bit more than average, and treble has a bit above average extension, so it means nice overtone saturation and basic layering, but still pretty good result. Of course it's balanced armature treble, so it means a bit more faster attacks and decays, causing that clean, crisp, but a bit lightweight treble, but still nice representation, airy and pleasant. And as an example, I've got one of my favorite avant-garde jazz tracks. It's Pat Metheny and Lyle Mays, Ozark. So I knew about Ozark before the famous TV series. And if you heard this album, if you haven't, I definitely recommend it. It's really saturated with different percussion, with different bells and shakers and so on, and that requires good treble, and these earphones definitely deliver it. So once again, to summarize about the sound: V-shaped signature with nice tight impactful low frequencies, recessed lower mids and accented upper mids and treble, giving additional layer of crispness, but sometimes they're lacking a bit of aggression. Speaking about the conversions, of course I couldn't recall every single model, so just a few earphones to serve as a reference point. Of course, Shozy Form 1.1 and 1.4 is probably the most obvious conversion. For both versions of Form are pretty close in terms of signature, so they have a bit more low frequencies, but so more bass, but a bit slower, and that causes a bit warmer signature. They are a bit less recessed on mids, but still also pretty V-shaped. And this one has a bit bit more even treble, bit more linear, so treble representation here is better, at least to my ears, because, you know, I don't like the treble that looks like some saw or sawtooth or something like that, so those are more linear and giving more natural treble, at least to my ears. But Form is better for those who like a bit less present treble and a bit warmer signature. I don't know, the Audio Legend 3, just because I reviewed them recently, they are a bit less detailed on low frequencies and a bit simpler on treble, so this one has a bit better treble. But at the same time, both models are a bit softer on the mids, so on the mids they are about the same. No, probably some tiny nuances present in terms of difference, but not huge. I don't know, BQ-EYZ Spring 2 is, you know, more technical, more resolving mids, more focus on the micro contrast, more extended treble, a bit less weighty signature, and so on and so forth. My other reference point, Hi-Fi Boy OS V3, they are more linear, less V-shaped than these ones, sounding a bit more monitoring and a bit less fun. So to summarize everything, probably it's not like the model for everyone, but still it's a really solid offer with a good V-shaped tuning, with a bit more technical lows, that is a bit more technical than it's typically done in the V-shaped signature, and with a bit more present treble, so giving a bit of unusual hints, so more airiness, more spark, and so on. So if you're looking for something beautiful with such signature, definitely recommend you to pay closer attention. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.